Dana White jumping on the hype train, to both the billionaires training and getting ready for the fight, here's why the Mark Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk fight is really happening. And even Dana White has jumped on the Elon versus Mark hype train. Looks like it's not just UFC fans that want to see this fight, because the UFC prez himself seems to be doing everything he can do to make it happen. Now, if we're being real, Musk has a habit of handing out challenges to the most random people imaginable. Like, do y'all remember the time when he wanted to settle the Ukraine conflict by going head-to-head against Putin? Putin was like, hell no, but it seems this time his opponent may just take him up on the offer. You see, Facebook founder and the biggest nerd on the planet, Mark Zuckerberg isn't one to shy away from a fight. Never mind the fact that it'll make him look like the world's richest scaredy cat, but there's also the fact that he's actually a fighting enthusiast. The dude's got some surprising skills despite being a 5'7" nerdy guy. On the flip side, Elon is vastly different both in terms of size and technical prowess. The guy's larger than Mark, but he really doesn't have nearly as much actual training as Mark does. Though the one thing he's got going for himself is his endless confidence. Like, the dude is running headfirst into this challenge, whether he can win it or not. That may just prove useful for him in an actual fight, since it's just as much about your mental strength as it is physical. In fact, White is convinced it's going to happen, mainly because of the tech mogul's confidence in this. Rich people threatening to fight each other over the internet isn't exactly anything new, but the reason that White is totally on board mainly has to do with a very long 90-minute conversation that Mark and Elon had with the UFC president. In it, they went over all the details of the match and possibly even discussed just when it could happen. After seeing just how persistent the two were, Dana realized that this thing could really happen. But of course, the internet isn't convinced just yet. And a part of that has to do with White's own comments about such fights in the past. Fans were calling this out to be a gimmick fight, which Dana has made clear that he's not a fan of. But the UFC president fired back at these claims and clarified just what he meant by that term. He considers fights that happen between boxers and MMA fighters to be gimmick showdowns. It's because the skill set of the fighters in those two sports are wildly different, and you're pretty much gearing someone up to get massively hurt. But of course, Elon versus Mark is a completely different story. Here you've got two billionaires ready to throw hands. It's the kind of event that has never happened before, which is why White is trying to make it happen. It's Dana's job to promote and organize fights like these. That'd get people interested and in the process, earn him a ton of money. And let's be real, this will likely be the biggest UFC fight ever. The simple truth is that this isn't just something that's going to attract UFC fans. Nope. The sheer popularity of these two tech moguls will cause people from all over the world to tune into this. Even more so now because White has confirmed that it's more than a publicity stunt. It's a very real possibility. And to make it clear just how much he wants this to happen, the UFC president even promoted the event by wearing a shirt about it. Sheesh! Now, if I'm being honest, White jumping all over the place to promote this fight makes sense simply from a business perspective. I mean, when you consider just how much money he'd be bringing in, you'll totally understand why he's fanboying so much. The fight is already expected to top all UFC records, even going as far as to make the McGregor-Mayweather look like spare change in comparison. Now, y'all may remember that even that fight was no joke. It had a pay-per-view cost of like $80 and managed to raise nearly $600 million in total. So the fact that Elon versus Zuck could earn even more is crazy to even think about. But considering the pay-per-view cost of this fight will probably be close to $100, and then you factor in the sheer popularity of these two billionaires, and you're looking at figures that are potentially 3 times as massive as the McGregor-Mayweather fight. Yup, it's unbelievable, and interestingly, there's something positive coming out of all this too. Musk and Mark are both set to make some big numbers with this fight. Going back to the Mayweather and McGregor bout, the two fighters earned around $275 and $85 million respectively. Now, with the billionaires earning almost thrice as much, you'd wonder just what they're gonna do with all that extra money. I mean, they're already billionaires, right? Well, turns out they're planning on donating it. Yep, they're gonna be giving away a part of their earnings to their favorite charities. So hey, not only are fans going to be getting some pretty great memes, but it looks like the billionaires are taking this as an opportunity to give to causes they care about. So maybe it should happen after all. But here's the thing, these two aren't a bunch of Mother Teresas. There's actually another reason behind why they're choosing to duke it out in the first place. You see, they're not exactly big fans of each other. In fact, they've had beef for almost half a decade now. And it seems they've decided beating the crap out of each other is the only way to settle their differences. But you're probably wondering, just how did these two grow to hate each other? Well, it all started back in 2016. At the time, Musk's company SpaceX was testing out one of their rockets, the Falcon 9. But something went wrong during the test, and it ended up destroying Facebook's satellite. This caused a bunch of issues for the company, since they were planning on providing internet to regions that didn't have it at the time. Musk was obviously sorry about it, but you can't deny that it was a huge setback for Zuck. The two would continue to argue with one another, especially because of how different their viewpoints are on important tech-related topics. Like the fact that Zuck supports artificial intelligence and its development, while Musk considers it to be dangerous and wants there to be more rules and restrictions in place. Elon has also criticized Facebook as a platform a lot of times before. At one point, he claimed that he didn't even know what it was, just to spite Mark even more. And to get back at him, Zuck's been working on his very own social media platform to rival Twitter. And to make matters spicier, the chief product officer at Meta said that they're gonna run their platform with a bit of sense. He was obviously taking shots at the whole Twitter fiasco that's been going on ever since Elon ended up buying it. So everything seems to be pointing in the direction of the fight happening. And so the internet's been wondering just which of the two billionaires has what it takes to win. I sort of talked about how well they'd fare in a fight earlier, but you've just got to hear their techniques and preparation in a bit more detail, because honestly, it's kind of hilarious. Musk's got this move that he calls the walrus, and trust me, it's pretty silly. He plans on sitting on top of his opponent and just letting his weight outright crush them. I've got to say, it's not the most genius technique, but if it works, then it works, right? Though Zuck's not playing around, he's got some actual martial arts experience and has even won medals in jiu-jitsu. Sure, he may be lighter and shorter than Musk, but the dude's got the stamina to outlast the guy. And that's not all. He's generally a lot more focused on his fitness, and I'm sure he's quick on his feet, and isn't relying on just sitting on top of his opponents. His unique skill set makes him a lot more suited for the kind of fight that the two are planning to have. He seems like the favored fighter between the two, and while Elon already sounds like he's a tad bit scared. Recently, he had a conversation with UFC star George St. Pierre, and guess what? He's taking some professional lessons from the guy so that he's actually got a fighting chance. So just who will win in the end is honestly anyone's guess right now. But it's clear that both of them are putting in the work to make the fight happen one way or the other. From both the billionaires training and getting ready for the fight, to even Dana White jumping on the hype train, that was why the Mark Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk fight is really happening.